Straight ahead, open seat with Ken Paxton running for U.S. Senate. A full slate of Republicans and Democrats are running for the Attorney General's office. We'll hear from the Democratic candidates this morning about why they're running. One-on-one, acting Texas comptroller Kelly Hancock talks about building the state's new school choice program and being endorsed by Governor Abbott so he can keep his seat next year. And major reclassification. President Trump signs an executive order on marijuana, what it means and how it could impact medical research. Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Jack Fink. Get your fix for Texas politics. Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas starts now. Hello and welcome to Eye on Politics. Wishing everyone a happy Hanukkah and a Merry Christmas later this week. It's one of the top statewide offices in Texas. We're talking about the Attorney General. And for the first time in more than a decade, there will be an open seat at the Texas Capitol as Ken Paxton has decided to leave the office at the end of his term next year and run for U.S. Senate. 7 candidates are running for this seat. They include 4 Republicans: State Senator Joan Huffman of Houston, State Senator Mays Middleton of Galveston, Aaron Wrights, former Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Policy during President Trump's second term, and Central Texas Congressman Chip Roy. Today, you'll hear from the 3 Democrats in the race: attorney and former FBI agent Tony Box, former Galveston Mayor Joe Jaworski, and State Senator Nathan Johnson of Dallas. And we asked them about why they are running. And our first question is, what is the essence of your campaign?
I'm running for Attorney General to help people. The Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer in the state of Texas and should be laser focused on service. I am focused on service and have been my entire career. And I'll tell you a little bit about where that comes from. When I was 16 years old, I was shot while trying to help someone. And during that process of healing and recovering in the hospital, I decided that I would live a life of service. I promised God and others that I would live my life to serve others. And then since that time, I've done exactly that. I've served as an FBI agent, I've served in the Army a full career, I've served as a federal prosecutor. I have lived a life of service. And the essence of this campaign is communicating that to the citizens of Texas, to the voters, to the people who need service, and contrast that with Ken Paxton and others who seem to be serving themselves, serving their rich buddies, as well as serving political parties. I'm not that guy. I am here running to serve the people of Texas.
And what exactly does that mean? And how do you take your life experience, getting shot, which I can't even imagine, and how does that guide how you will serve as Attorney General and on crime as well?
Sure. So it is a difficult, getting shot was of course difficult, but what I've gotten out of that, I still carry that bullet with me to this day.
It's still in you?
It is still in me, in my liver. It is a permanent reminder, it is a North Star for me that I have to serve others.
The mantra, if you will, of my campaign is going to be that corruption is bad for Texas and we need public servants who will serve the public, not politicians who serve themselves. And so what I want voters to know is Joe Jaworski is running for Texas Attorney General. I will never lie to you. I can't be bought, and I have your back.
And you talk about corruption, and are you talking about the existing? I mean, in what context are you referring to corruption? Obviously, it's against the law, but I mean, how do you define it, and how does it relate to your campaign?
Well, it is the Attorney General's province to be the lead lawyer and, in a way, counselor for the entire state. It breaks my heart to see that state government has become akin to the Spanish Inquisition, picking winners and losers, while at the same time it has adopted a pay-to-play type experience.
How so?
Well, examples that donors who have millions of dollars that would be a rounding error to their finances are able to pay capital sums to legislators and executives in order to achieve access.
The framers of the Texas Constitution had something very specific in mind when they created the Office of Attorney General, and that mission is not being fulfilled. Those framers mistrusted power in all forms everywhere. They wanted the Attorney General to be part of the executive branch, independently elected by the voters, to act as a check to the concentration of power and the abuse of power wherever it is, in government, in the marketplace, and on the streets. And for quite a long time now, the office has not been used for that at all. It has been used as a political tool, and the interests of the public and of the state have been trampled upon in service of a political machine that isn't particularly concerned with either. A political machine that sees people as a way to extract wealth and somebody over whom to exercise power. That's not who should be in the Attorney General's office. There need to be a check on the governor, on the legislature, on corruption, on corporations, on the President of the United States. The Attorney General has got to stand for upholding the rule of law so that this state can thrive. We haven't had it. It's time to fix it.
Our next question, how will you defend a state law in court that you disagree with?
First things first, I would probably have my own opinion about it, and as I saw something going down the pike through what would I think be the 90th legislature, I might have some choice words about whether it was constitutional or wise to pass. So people will hear from the Attorney General as a Democrat for the first time in a long time who might be saying and speaking from a different script. But also remember, Jack, as an attorney, I took an oath of office alongside my wife when we graduated University of Texas Law School together 35 years ago. And what that oath says is you will protect and defend the Texas Constitution as well as the United States Constitution. Also, as a Texas attorney, the Supreme Court understands I am held to the Texas rules, the disciplinary rules of professional conduct. And Jack, I'm sure we've talked about this before. Rule 3.01 requires every attorney, when considering a representation, to use his or her own discretion and judgment as to whether the position they're taking is in good faith and or not frivolous. So if there's an unconstitutional law that the legislature has passed because they want to make a statement and appeal to their base, if it's unconstitutional, I won't support it. In fact, I'll work to undo it.
This really captures the imagination of the press. Everyone wants to know, what are you going to do when you have to defend these terrible Republican laws? You know, there is a job of Attorney General, and it is to defend the laws of the state of Texas. And I think it's very important that an Attorney General recognize that the legislature makes the laws, and they have the right to make bad laws. They have the right to make stupid laws. They don't have the right to make unconstitutional laws. Well, I guess they have the right to make them, but they don't have the right to see them enforced, and I would not enforce unconstitutional laws by the legislature.
And so what in your mind is unconstitutional?
Well, you know, it changes by the day with this present Supreme Court. So it's a case-by-case basis that comes along. But you raised the more difficult question, what if it's not unconstitutional? What if it's just a bad law? Again, I have to defend the right of the legislature to make the law, right? I have great discretion in enforcement powers. The Attorney General actually isn't the frontline enforcer on many things, but I do have discretion as to how to use the resources, and there are priorities, and there are lesser priorities, and you can bet that any Attorney General, Republican or Democrat, is going to exercise that discretion to see to it that the people of Texas are well served. In the case of a law that I find so repugnant that I just can't in good conscience defend it, we can get outside counsel. It's something that Paxton, that Abbott, that Cornyn, that our last three attorneys general have all done. There are times when your office just can't do it, but you make sure that the state is represented.
The dividing line is do you believe that this law is unconstitutional? And I'm not going to defend unconstitutional laws. And to the extent I've sworn an oath to the Constitution over and over again, started when I was 18 years old, and it continues to today. I'm not going to defend unconstitutional laws, and so that is, you know, how you divide or determine whether you're going to defend or not defend a law.
We also asked about an issue that attracted nationwide controversy, the governor sending the Texas National Guard to Chicago in October.
I think the president's actions are illegal. And I think the governor, who is the commander-in-chief of the Texas State National Guard, has the power to deploy them for state purposes. But simply acquiescing to Trump's ridiculous demands to send Texas reservists, Texans who have families, who have jobs, who have kids, to disturb their lives and send them to Oregon for a stunt by the President of the United States when he's lying to the public about there being an insurrection in Oregon. That's an abuse of his authority. Abbott should have stood up to Trump, and our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, should have sued to stop it.
Abhorrent. I do not support that.
Why not?
I'm a soldier. I spent 20 years as a soldier. No soldier wants to be deployed in that manner. Look, we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. We should never use our people, our military, against our own people. That is not the appropriate manner to use military. And so I'm not supportive of using the greatest fighting force in the world against Americans.
I think that it is another example of our state leaders selling us out to Donald Trump. And I'll tell you why they're doing it. Because they're afraid of being denounced on Trump's Truth social media platform. That's no way to run a state government. So I'm really disappointed.
And if you were Attorney General, would there be anything you would do, or is that not something that you would feel like you'd be able to challenge?
Oh, I think I would challenge it.
Oh, you would?
Oh, sure. I mean, the Oregon Attorney General filed suit against Trump federalizing the Oregon National Guard. This is a little different because here you have the governor loaning our National Guard. What is it, 400 units, I think was the last count. Of course, this is after all that horror down at the border where we heard, I mean, regardless of what you think about whether we should have the National Guard down at the border, but you know, you heard stories about people taking their own life because they were sent down there and were missing their opportunity to actually work and pay bills for their family. So this whole idea of just willy-nilly sending our men and women who are loyally serving our National Guard, and they are wonderful public servants, off to remote locations kind of reminds me of bring our boys, and in this case, boys and girls back home. So the Attorney General can absolutely do something about that.
The Texas National Guard members who went to Illinois returned to the Lone Star State before Thanksgiving. There's also a new poll by Texas Southern University that just came out on Thursday about the Democrats running for Attorney General, and it shows Jaworski with 21%, Johnson at 19%, and Box at 3%. Perhaps not surprising, 57% of the Democrats surveyed said they are unsure who they will vote for. Texas Southern University also surveyed the Democratic primary for governor. State Representative Gina Hinojosa of Austin has a big lead with 41% of the vote, while former gubernatorial candidates Andrew White, an entrepreneur of Houston, with 6%, and former Houston Congressman Chris Bell with 5%. Next week, we will hear from the Republican candidates for Texas Attorney General. Coming up on this program, though, we'll be speaking with acting Texas Comptroller Kelly Hancock about his agency building the new school choice program from the ground up, and about Governor Abbott's endorsement to help him keep his job. When Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas returns. Welcome back to Eye on Politics. One of the other open seats that's up for grabs next year is for Texas Comptroller. In the Democratic primary are State Senator Sarah Eckhart of Austin and Michael Lang. In the Republican primary are Railroad Commissioner Christy Craddock, former State Senator Don Huffines of Dallas, and former State Senator Kelly Hancock of North Richland Hills, who is also the acting comptroller. Earlier this year, Hancock was appointed by Governor Greg Abbott, who has endorsed him for the March primary. He campaigned for Hancock last month in Fort Worth. I spoke with Hancock about his campaign and the school choice program that his office is now developing, but we'll start with his reaction about the governor's endorsement.
Well, it's wonderful. I mean, obviously, we have a very, not only loved, but extremely successful governor who's done a phenomenal job in the state of Texas. So, love to have his backing, and, you know, frankly, I just love having this friendship.
What is your campaign message? What are your top priorities, and why do you think they should be more appealing to Republican primary voters than your competitors?
Yeah, well, I think our message is watch our work. Watch what we do. We've always, you know, I've always been somebody that's more about accomplishment than rhetoric. And so, you know, since I've been in office, we've done a number of things. I mean, we have gotten rid of DEI. with state contracts where based on race and based on gender, you got preferential treatment. We've created a level playing field. You know, we've worked with the federal government to get the $11 billion back when it comes to border security because of the billions of dollars that taxpayers in Texas have paid for to secure our border. And in January, we're going to start providing grants for law enforcement working with us for those immigration, arrest, and enforcement of that as well. And we've installed all new financial systems. You know, we're running the agency much more like a business, which is my background. And I think one of the reasons that the governor asked me to step into this role, and very, very importantly, we have already established the rules and we'll be starting February 4th, the largest educational freedom account in the nation, and we're extremely excited about that, especially because of my 13 years on a local school board, and I've been a huge proponent of educational savings accounts for over 30 years now.
And so you said you're operating the agency more like a business.
Oh yeah.
And so have you saved money?
Yes, we've looked at it. In fact, you know, what we're doing with the HUB program will save money. I mean, we're reducing that across the state of Texas. We're auditing every agency. So in fact, we're involved with the governor's office and Texas Rangers on a Texas City today, where we're auditing that, working with DPS as well on border issues, where we're having some tax fraud, working with folks working with the cartels to avoid paying taxes in that area. And we're also working with Texas Southern, where once again, we have audited them in 2019. We're stepping in once again because some issues down there with Texas Southern, and we're auditing every single agency, and that is a major part of the job that we do.
You talked about HUB, which is the historically underutilized business program. You've changed that, obviously, you mentioned it before. How are you going to ensure going forward that people, businesses, et cetera, are getting a fair shake, fair access to state contracts?
Right, that's what this is about, is leveling the playing field, making sure that we don't have discriminatory practices in the state of Texas, and we're doing away with that so that we do have a level playing field. And I think most importantly, Jack, one of my primary obligations in this office is taking care of taxpayer money. And now we're 100% focused on making sure our contracts, our agreements, our purchases are all about best value in the state instead of some, you know, other. That's really what should be our focus, is taking care of those taxpayer dollars.
You talked about school choice. Private schools can begin applying next Tuesday to participate in the Education Savings Accounts program. What are you hearing from schools that have already signaled interest in joining, and what about hesitations from those who haven't decided?
Yeah, we're very excited about it. In fact, we sent out a survey, and the response we are getting already is that 83% of those Catholic and private schools are interested in the program. And so, you know, from day one, I've literally been traveling the state, meeting with those schools, being in those lower income, urban, which is our target, low income, special needs, and really focused on that. And we've been in those communities. I wanted them to see a face and someone that they knew that they could trust. And we just want to be real transparent and know that we're going to be accountable with taxpayer dollars. So I think we're going to have great participation.
A Collin County judge has unsealed the divorce records of Attorney General Ken Paxton and State Senator Angela Paxton of McKinney. The judge's move comes after the Paxtons agreed last week to making their divorce case public. State Senator Angela Paxton filed for divorce in July on, quote, biblical grounds. She later requested the records be sealed, and the judge agreed. The filings show that 4 judges recused themselves from this case. Media organizations sued months ago to gain access to the filings and spoke with reporters today.
We were surprised to hear that they were changing their mind on opposing the sealing, but we're very happy to reach the result that we did. I think it's definitely a victory for our media clients and the First Amendment, but it's even more of a victory for the Texas voters and maybe getting some access to information as they're making their decision here in the next several months on the Senate election.
An attorney representing Ken Paxton told CBS News Texas on Friday that he wanted full transparency, but the court filings from 1 month ago show the Attorney General wanted to keep the divorce records private. Up next, President Trump reclassifies marijuana, what it means for medical research, when Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas comes back. President Trump signed an executive order for the most significant shift in U.S. marijuana policy in decades. Sarah Jenkins has this week's brief.
The president signed an executive order on Thursday to expedite the rescheduling of marijuana from a Schedule I drug to a Schedule III drug. The move does not change criminal penalties for marijuana possession or expand access for recreational use. It does increase opportunities for medical marijuana research, including for pain management. In Texas, the new law allows a more profitable business model for medical marijuana companies. Texas lawmakers expanded the compassionate use program during the regular session, adding more dispensary licenses and expanding eligibility for the program to include chronic pain conditions. For The Brief, I'm Sarah Jenkins.
Thank you, Sarah. You can watch all our full interviews with all the Democratic candidates for Attorney General and Republican Acting Comptroller Kelly Hancock on our CBS Texas YouTube page. And while you're there, please hit the subscribe button. And that's all for Eye on Politics for this Sunday. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening to you at CBS News Texas. Thank you for watching, and from all of us here, I want to wish everyone again a very Merry Christmas and a continued Happy Hanukkah. See you next week.